We know Cleveland is excited about the Browns. Freddie Kitchens, Baker Mayfield, John Dorsey. The town is excited. They feel the Browns are real. The question is, how are the Browns viewed nationally by the guys who cover the NFL day in and day out?
I think there's an excitement around the Browns that I haven't sensed in a long time. And I think when the schedule comes out in April, we're going to see how the NFL feels about the Browns now. I think they're going to have multiple primetime games, especially early in the season before maybe the dust settles and maybe we were wrong about the Browns. But I think with Baker Mayfield there's a different vibe, there's a different attitude. It's been so long since there's been an athlete in that organization that generates the kind of excitement that we see from Baker Mayfield and the kind of hope. I mean, there's real hope now. Who knows where it's going to go from here? There may be some hiccups. There may be some issues. There may be a fundamental difference for Freddie Kitchens being offensive coordinator versus being the head coach, and there may be some growing pains there. But I like where the defense is. I like where the offense is. And I like where Baker Mayfield is already after 1 year. Short list franchise quarterback in the making. Not there yet, but he's in the making. What he did last year was phenomenal, and I think it's fun again to watch the Browns and root for the Browns, and the fans have been waiting for a long time. They deserve it.
Freddie Kitchens, is that important that you kept that consistent voice in your young quarterback's ear?
It's important to keep the voice, but he's not going to be in the same spot he was in. Now he's the head coach, and how different will it be now? How much of that voice will be in Baker Mayfield's ear? You know, I want to give Freddie Kitchens the benefit of the doubt, and I hope that he does well. But I kind of looked at having Baker Mayfield, having Myles Garrett, having Denzel Ward, having that great young nucleus of players. I thought there was an opportunity to make a signature hire. And it's hard to call it a signature hire because nobody knows. And I don't know who else is out there that they would have really wanted. Man, I thought Bruce Arians would have been good. Bruce Arians was interested. They weren't interested in him. But I'm cautiously optimistic that keeping him around is going to be helpful. But again, it is a fundamentally different role.
Last thing I'll ask you. Harder to go from where the Browns were to 500 or from 500 to that playoff team?
I think it's harder to go from 500 to the playoff team, and the goal is to consistently be in that conversation, to have a team that every year is in the hunt after Thanksgiving. You know, everybody always says we want to win the Super Bowl. The real motivation is always be still alive for the postseason in December. So the kids want the jerseys. You know, the people go to the games in December when it's cold and it's miserable, and there's excitement there as you pull into the end of the season and hopefully get to the postseason.
It's interesting where the Browns are. I mean, last year was such a, not tumultuous because that makes it negative, but just there's a lot of stuff that happened in the offseason, a lot of trades. You know, Landry had Tyrod. And everyone knew they had the draft picks. I mean, there was a lot of movement and a lot of players. I'm not sure, they still have work to do, but I'm not sure this is an organization that has to be super, super active. And part of the problem is, like, you know, you look at the free agent class, it's fine. There's definitely good players. I don't want to say there's not good players, but every free agent would have to beat out someone on the Browns roster. So, like, where's that going to be, right? I mean, you sign a starting receiver, okay, well, first of all, you're going to pay more than Jarvis. Second of all, you know, probably not. Second of all, like, where do they actually fit in? Does this stunt the growth of some of the young guys? Like, so I think the Browns will do some things, but I'm not sure it'll be like a crazy, crazy spending offseason because I don't know if it needs to be.
Cleveland Browns fans are excited about the Browns. Are they for real from a national perspective? Are they kind of on the cusp of becoming, you know, a playoff team?
Yeah, I mean, this looks like to me, and you know, we've sort of been here before with are the Browns for real or not? I mean, this, you know, the 7-4 Brian Hoyer team, for instance, was one where I sort of thought maybe, like, to me, this is as close as they have come since I've been following this to being on the cusp of being really good. You know, I loved the head coach hire. I can't believe they did. I still can't believe they did it. It's funny because there were so many outside people, you know, from the consultants or other GMs or other coaches who are like, why don't they just hire Freddie? Like why? You know, and just nobody thought they would do it. And for a while, I didn't think they were going to. And then once you get down to the end, I'm like, it has to. It literally has to be. And it made so much sense. And then, you know, you got a really good talent base. Obviously, you got a quarterback. So it's like, think about how many fewer things they have to worry about now that they have a quarterback. I mean, I think this is going to be a team that will be good and probably good for a while.
How much credit does John Dorsey get for what he did in the draft and the trades and just... I mean, the roster upgrade is significant from when he took over.
It is, and it was sort of creative. A lot of it was done creatively in different ways. You know, say, okay, the trade for Tyrod didn't work. Fine. Trade for Landry did. Randall, interesting one. I think a lot of the draft picks, he did some things in the draft where, people were really surprised. Denzel Ward, who could believe they took him? Taking Baker number 1, I'm still pissed at myself for not thinking about it with an open enough mind. They're like, okay, well, if Baker's good enough for the Jets at 3, why wouldn't he be good enough for the Browns at 1? It never computed until a couple days before the draft. And one thing about Dorsey is he has conviction. So he is not a groupthink guy. He believes what he believes. And, he is honestly, through his whole career even in Kansas City, he's drafted well. This is looking like it's going to be really good.
Last thing I'll ask you. How real is what we saw from Baker Mayfield, and how good can he be?
I think it's as real as it gets. Now, he's going to go into his second year. He's going to face the tough part. And I think guys like, Deshaun Watson faced it. Mahomes will face it next year, where everyone's game planning for you, and it's just a little different. Now, he's got some really good coaches. I thought Todd Monken was a fantastic hire. Sort of a good recruiting victory for Freddie Kitchens and Dorsey. So he got some good coaches to help him through that. I think he's very real. It's just going to be harder this year because everyone has spent this offseason game planning for him.
I think they're on the cusp of being for real. I don't want to crown them yet, but if you got to ask me my, February of 2019 proclamation on the Cleveland Browns, I would be shocked if the Cleveland Browns aren't in at least a playoff conversation come next December. Not going to say they get in it, but a lot of the key vital components you want for a successful football team are all there, or they're starting to formulate. Offensive line, franchise quarterback, holy running back, Nick Chubb, some young receivers, Jarvis Landry the leader. So the offense, there you go. Defensive line, you have some players, or defensive side, I should say, there's some players there that are certainly special, but I don't think it's a special unit yet. But it's getting there, and I'm pumped for what Cleveland can be.
You are a former quarterback.
Yeah.
What do you see in Baker Mayfield that maybe most people don't see?
He's just really a natural, gifted thrower of the football. I think that's the first thing. Like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Kyler Murray who's coming out in the draft, I don't care what object they pick up, he can throw it. If he wanted to be a baseball pitcher in 7th grade and said, I'm going to play Major League Baseball, I bet you Baker Mayfield would be a Major League Baseball pitcher. He's just special that way. But I think the biggest thing is his persona, I think, is what's really jumped out to me. Forget the physical ability, which is awesome, and the size doesn't matter because he's amazing in the pocket and still keeping his eyes down the field. But he's changed around almost the culture of the organization with his, bravado and his willingness to be a leader and maybe be the bad guy and not shake Hugh Jackson's hand because you're not on the squad. Those things rub off on an organization and a team, and I think that's what's kind of cool about him too.
How tough is it? Is it tougher to go from where the Browns were to 500 or from 500 to playoff?
This will be probably the tougher push here because now it's going to get into all the little intricate details. The New England Patriots haven't been lucky for 18 years in a row. They win a lot of these tight, close football games where we go, oh, New England's so lucky because they've been in those situations. They practice all the little intricacies that make a team successful. A quarterback, having to learn, when to take a chance, when not to take a chance. All of those things come into play. And that's, of course, the last learning curve that Cleveland will have to go through. And it will be tough, and especially you're not in an easy division either. But I think there's the player and the players and DNA and the coaching staff that are there to make it happen.
Last thing I'll ask you:
Yeah.
How important is it to keep the consistent voice in Baker Mayfield's ear from a quarterback's perspective? They kept Freddie Kitchens, who did good as a offensive coordinator. How important was it to make him the head coach?
I think it's huge. I really do. Instead of we can go around the league and look at some other quarterbacks and go, wow, they haven't been as successful as I thought they would. And I'd go, well, look, it's third year and it's a second offensive coordinator. Or, too many instances like that where I was thoroughly impressed with what Freddie Kitchens brought to the football team when he took over as the play caller and really designing the offensive game plan. I thought it was pretty special. And to build on that, I think was very important for a young quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who seems to really respect and like Freddie Kitchens. I think that was the best option available, rather than him going somewhere else and being an offensive coordinator and doing a good job and then being a head coach somewhere else 2 years from now, and all the Cleveland fans go, damn, he could have been our head coach. So I think it was a smart move, and I'm pumped to see what Baker and the whole offense and Freddie Kitchens got in store for us this year.